Welcome back to Global War 1939. Just clued up round 9. So let's take a look. So it finally happened to the Germans. One side had to break from the constant landings and counterattacks here in Normandy. So the Allied landed and the Germans countered. The Germans lost that counter. So the implications of this is that now the UK, USA now have a complete beachhead, fully operational on their side. So now they can build the seaport to help the Americans with this chuck. Because right now they got one turn to land and then 2 turns to go back. So they need 3 sets of transports to make that work properly. But now they can avoid all that. They just got to buy, or the UK or the US down here just needs to buy seaport. Yeah, so this has definitely made things a little more interesting, puts an extreme amount of pressure on the Germans. Their last purchase, they devoted most of their income to infantry. They only got 1 light armor. So it begs the question, do the units out east divert to France? Because the army group in the east have quite a sizable armor corps. We'll see. Now, for the Anglos in Normandy, what we currently have is 2 light tank, 6 medium tanks, 2 which are American, 2 American infantry, 4 British commando, an artillery, and we have 5 fighters that are now able to land there. Which is a problem because now when the Germans, when they go to counter, not only do they have to deal with the tanks and the infantry, which was causing them problems before, now they got the added pressure of the fighters on defense. So what ended up happening, the Germans, or the British landed 1 infantry in Bordeaux because it was undefended, so it was just a walk-on, and they put the rest of the forces in Normandy. So when the Germans went to counter, they had to counter both. So they put one of their PaK-40s and an infantry to go down in Bordeaux. Both the British and the German infantry killed each other, leaving just a PaK-40. No problem. And then sent the rest of the units and whatever they could, plus their Air Force, and they got repelled back. They even lost one of their tacticals, and it came down right down to the last man. The British did hold on, but I would suspect if they had the PaK-40 and the extra infantry, the last hit wouldn't have, when it went towards the tactical bomber, it would have went on that infantry. So they would have saved one of their aircraft and would have recaptured the territory with only 1 unit, avoiding the whole UK now having an air force in France. So big problems for the Germans. Now the Vichy French are now under pressure. If the Americans come up and they do have 4 tanks, 2 medium, 2 light, and add it with this force, 2 paratroopers and infantry and another medium, they can easily take out these 2 infantry and the artillery. Now, what would happen if, I do believe, and I will review the rule again, but I do believe once the Vichy French here, once this territory is liberated by either the US or the UK, any Vichy fleet converts back to UK or back to the Commonwealth. So then all of a sudden there's Allied vessels back in the Mediterranean. So the Italians would definitely win this battle. They'll lose a couple of vessels in the process, but it just adds one more thing that the Axis have to worry about. So that's an interesting little rule here. Yeah, so they have basically what is going to end up happening now, this whole land counter, we're going to repeat that process, but now this time it's probably going to end up being Paris. The Germans do have 6 infantry and artillery and SS mechanized with the 3 infantry they already have there. They definitely don't have the force to attack the British Americans, and these guys are too far away. Basically, they'll just be attacking with 5 units and their air force. Maybe possible, but then it leaves Paris wide open. So these units are going to have to back up to Paris. These guys from West Germany into Reims and so forth. They're going to have to get some more artillery and armor to back up those infantry. In their ally states, they didn't really build anything outside of just what these countries provide their own income for. So no real backup for the Eastern Army in Russia. So they just got to go now. They can't wait for an infantry screening. They just got to deal with what they have. Because the longer they wait, the stronger the Russia's going to be. The more they're obviously not getting any more money out east, where it's last 3 turns, all their money's been going to the west. So for the last $175 or so, $180 or so has been going in the direction that they don't want it to go in. If it was all in the east, it would make this battle a little more secure for the Germans. But this is a high risk. Their Battle Group 2 was looking at the situation when they were in Kiev and Ukraine. They were like, we can completely abandon Russia, abandon that war, and with the hopes of the Russians wouldn't invade the German, Poland, and their allies, which of course they would. So they got to take away this threat before they deal with this threat, this army group anyways, and put as much money in here as possible. Now, if this fails, that's it. They would have nothing else in the east, and the Russians would just be able to walk over. So Germany's got a lot of problems. Their endeavor up to retake Scandinavia, they did land a couple of infantry and a couple of armor. The combined forces of Leningrad and a couple infantry in that territory, they went and took them out. So it's looking like where they have to put everything here, Scandinavia seems to be in a firm grasp of the Allied Commonwealth nations. So this is, I can't see this converting back to Germany anytime soon. Not until France is completely 100% secure again, which obviously now they have beachheads is going to be hard times. And they did have a couple infantry here that they did move up to take this Russian territory with the hopes of the 3 infantry, a couple armor, and these 2 infantry would join with the help out with some of their air force, would take out Leningrad. But that obviously backfired as the Germans went on the Russians went on the offensive, utilizing their light bombers. So I do like this, their transports and bombers. These units are quite nice. You pretty much get a 2-for-1 package with those units. Their excursion, they had a small little force here. They're going to take out the Japanese. But seeing that the German Second Army did move up, they had to join the Russian 8th. And kind of giving up on this. So they're putting all their eggs in one basket with the hopes of winning this upcoming battle. So there's a big risk for both sides. Whoever wins this will secure this entire landmass, as these are the only biggest 2 armies here. Once one goes or the other side would have nothing to actually put much of a resistance up. So for both sides, everything's in one basket. Not really the best way to conduct warfare, but it is what it is. All right, so just give you a rundown of what's in Moscow right now. We have close to 50 infantry, a rocket, mechanized, 3 heavy artillery, 5 KV-2s, 1 medium tank, and roughly, what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 elite guards. And in the German army, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 infantry, paratrooper, 5 SS infantry, 8 Mark 4s, 2 Mark 5s, 14 medium tanks, 3 mechanized, we got 7 SS mechanized, 11 artillery. And it looks like they're going to have to do it without their Air Force is kind of out of range. They get their medium bombers there, but the fighters and the tacticals are out of range. Maybe not. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, yeah, out of range. All right, so for the Italians, they did land a couple more infantry here. Like I said in the previous video, they were planning on taking artillery and a mechanized. They only got the mechanized to move the artillery up quicker. And they chose to do this because their transports were being utilized in other ways. Now Cairo did fall. The 10th Italian Army did take out Cairo. This is what's surviving. So pretty much they lost all their infantry. They lost all their infantry. They still got a light tank, 3 medium tanks, 2 heavy artillery, and 4 artillery. The whole situation where the Italians had 2 extra guys up here, they had the 5 infantry. So what the British decided to do, bring 3 infantry in, remove a tank, so 2 infantry and a tank, engage the Italians there. Otherwise, they just would have had free reign into this. And this is worth $10 for the Commonwealth, so they couldn't let that go. But now that Cairo is firmly in the control of the Italians, because there's no way a light tank, a medium tank, and 2 infantry are going to retake it. That's just not going to happen. And they don't really have, like, they have this production facility, but that's so far away. They have the one in India, but they can't really divert units over this way, as the Japanese main attacking force is right here. So Northern Africa is kind of on their own. Yeah, so it'll just be a matter of time before this all gets cleaned up. So their focus now is going to shift over to Gibraltar to open up the seaway to get the Italian Navy in the Atlantic, to help out the Germans, to put some pressure on this transport fleet, as most of it is just transports. They do have a healthy number of cruisers, a battleship, destroyer. Americans got a couple destroyers, or 4 destroyers and a sub. The Russians won't move. They're just being a blocker to prevent the Germans from escaping. And a couple transports here. These destroyers are coming down into the Indian Ocean to get rid of this. So they're occupied. So the Italians do come out. Now, of course, both countries will see this happen, and they'll have a turn, maybe 2, to react. So they'll have to divert over to sea vessels for a turn or 2 to stop the Italian fleet. And funny thing is, I was using a British with an American roundel to represent the Brazilian coastal battleship, and I didn't even realize I had American sculpts. So I just swapped that out. So this is a coastal battleship, and I got this sculpt from one of the earlier games made in the early 2000s. And you can tell that the sculpt is the same sculpt, it's just smaller. So that's what I'm using for coastals. And I got similar ones for the British as well. So that was a nice little surprise. Didn't even know. For FEC, they did lose this battle a little while ago, so they didn't have anything to counter, as the Japanese got 7 veterans, medium tank, artillery, heavy artillery, 2 regular infantry, and a fighter, tactical, and their veterans, all in their veteran fighters, all in this territory. So this wasn't strong enough to take it out, so they're just in a defensive mode. It's going to be a slow. I can see the Japanese attacking, and once this is gone, then there's nothing left. So India should fall within a turn or two. But that's one of the risks of going German first or Japan first. You're letting the other side kind of get away from you. Because if this game continues on, say, for another 5 to 10 rounds, Germans in a lot of trouble. They're not out of it, but definitely in a lot of problems. So the Japanese are the ones that are really the biggest threat for the Axis side at this point. Right now, they're making more money than the Americans. Income-wise, after bonuses, of course, the Japanese are at 100, 15, 18. So the Japanese are at 118, and the Americans are at 108. So they're not making much more, $10, but it does add up. But the Commonwealth economy is pretty healthy. Commonwealth is 30, 40, 50 for the UK, 15 for Canada. These guys are still only making 4. They just saved 1 from the previous turn. So they're making, this is South Africa. India right now has 17, and Anzac has 10. So combined, they're making close to $90. So that's nothing, right? The Germans, they're not getting any of their bonuses. They got 50, $62. The Italians, 30, 41. And Japanese, we already counted. Russia got 31. So right now, the Japanese is the strongest, followed by the Americans and the British. So I believe the British are making just as much as the German and the Italians, or pretty close to it. For the rest of Japan, they didn't really do a lot. They just consolidated their fleet. Their purchase was a big buy. They bought 3 loaded carriers all in one go. So this now almost doubles, or is it, not quite. So they got 5 carriers there, plus another 3. So they definitely have a lot more. Oh, not a lot more. The Americans do have 6. So the Americans do have 6 carriers. So the Japanese have 2 more. Battleship-wise, Americans got 6. The Japanese got 8, 4 of which are Amatos. We are in turn 9, so it's not going to be long before they switch over to Iowa class, which will make their fleet even stronger. They did back out from Hawaii. So they backed out from Hawaii back to the shore. As you see, they had a bunch of, during their purchase, they wanted to amalgamate their fleet right away instead of waiting a turn for the newly construction ships to move over. So they just backed out, and then next turn they'll just go back to Hawaii. Yeah, or the Japanese. The downside of this, the Japanese might just sail up and park outside of Hawaii, forcing the Americans to do the attack. They might do that, or wait for their new 3 carriers and then attack the Americans off the coast of Hawaii. The Japanese do have a couple transports, and they have some infantry and heavy artillery, a couple more artillery pieces. that they might make a jump for this. So the Americans will probably reinforce Hawaii with another 4 units, not leaving much behind here. But if this is the Japanese priority, then they should have time to rebuild their land-based defense on the mainland. All right. So yeah, that's probably their plan. Wait for these carriers and then make the assault. We'll see how that goes. But Hawaii is a must. It is a victory city. We are approaching round 10, and the Germans are still 2 cities short. So basically, the Germans would have to... that's providing that we're going to round 10. I never really announced it in the beginning of the game, which I should have, either round 10 or 15. So that's a mistake on my part. I do apologize. But if we were going to go to that condition, they would need to hold Paris, take Cairo, and take Hawaii. Cairo is definitely going to fall. There's only a matter of time. Hawaii is up in the air. And eventually I can see the Americans and the British take Paris. It may take longer than 2 turns to do that, but I can definitely see it over time, considering that the U.S. on this side just purchased 5 more transports, so 18 units are coming over on their next turn. Plus this, plus the British will be dropping another 10 units here. So, yeah, it's only a matter of time before Paris falls. They should make a strike against the French, which then leads a nice little road to Rome, which if Rome falls, then the Italians switch sides. So then the Allies don't even have to worry about never mind. The fleet would still stay Axis. It's the land-based units and the Air Force that would switch sides. But victory city. So if Italy did switch, then that'll be it for it. It will only be a matter of time. But we'll see. Nothing's over yet. The Germans still do have a strong military, so can't count them out yet. A little too early for that. All right, and for Anzac, the Japanese did have their 3 subs here. They thought they were pretty safe, so they backed everything out to go after the Americans. The Japanese sub here, seeing the Australians come up with their 3 destroyers, so they decided to go to this sea zone with hopes of joining up with the Germans and the other 2 Japanese subs for a stronger defense. But the destroyers caught up with them, took out that sub pretty easily, and they got 3 more coming up. So basically it's 6 destroyers versus 3 subs and a cruiser. So I can see the Indian Ocean battle going in the favor of the Allies. But also, I could be wrong on that too. All right, well, thank you for watching, and have yourself a great day.